Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hammy Show presented by Bulldog Illustrated. I'm your host, Hammy Culpepper. We've got a very, very, very special guest with us. Now a national champion. I want to jump right into that. Drake Bernstein, head coach of the women's tennis team, coming off an indoor national title. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was a fun week for the team. You know, we hopped up there to Evanston, Illinois, and spent the week there playing some good tennis indoors, obviously, a little chilly. But for the team, you know, we play the first two rounds of this event here in Athens, and then it's, you know, the final 16 are up there in Indiana, top 16 teams in the country, or in Illinois, sorry, top 16 teams in the country, and took it one at a time, battled through, and had a, you know, good week coming away with a big one.
Yeah. So we talked about it a little bit before of some pregame speech. How were you able to relate to those girls, you know, on a consistent basis in general, you know, match in and match out, but specifically in the...
You know, looking at really the whole tournament, we had kind of this quiet confidence rolling through, talking about finding, you know, our identity as a group on the national stage. And by the time the finals rolled around, it was kind of one quote kept popping into my head. It was "Work while it's called today, for night cometh where no man can work." Yep. Thomas Carlyle, you know, and that kind of just set the tone for we're going to go out here with no regrets while we have this opportunity on our plate. Yeah. We're gonna dive in and make the most of it. No stones unturned, and you know, they did a fantastic job.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I want to go rewind a little bit, I guess, to your playing days. Alex Hill, a mutual friend of ours, told me about when you were in high school, you came up and started practicing with the team and stuff. So is that kind of part of the recruiting journey, or were you like Georgia all the way?
Yeah, you know, as far as the recruiting, I was actually, you know, being from Winder, you would think that it's a no-brainer. You go to Georgia to play tennis, but as a junior, I was pretty good, but I wasn't, you know, I wouldn't say Georgia material. Right. So my recruiting was very open throughout the process. I was pretty set on actually going to Alabama, and took a visit to Louisville, Alabama, and then I got on my visit to Georgia, and about an hour in, you know, Alex, who I'd known my whole life, he's a freshman on the team at the time, and just felt the brotherhood of this program, and it was, you know, sometimes it's hidden in plain sight, really, of what a special place this was, and getting to be on that visit opened my eyes, like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere else. If I play one match here at Georgia, then my whole tennis career would have been worth it. And got a few more than one match, but yeah, definitely worth it.
That's awesome. So you get here in college. Obviously, Georgia tennis is a legendary program. Coach McGill, Coach Diaz, Coach Wallace before you on the women's side. Talk a little bit about that culture and the history of this legendary program.
There's really nothing like it. You know, the brotherhood, and I think that obviously starts with the grandfather of it all, Coach McGill, and the way he and really Manny helped connect generations of players, where it was like we never felt like we were our own thing when we went out to play. We were representing the guys that came 40, 50, 60 years before us, and they were all in the fight with us. We knew the alumni by name, tight relationships there. That brotherhood, I think, is what really helps you when it's 3-all in the third, knowing that there's a whole army of folks behind you that have your back. Whether you win or lose, they're going to have your back. I think that's, you know, really a contributing factor in what makes this place so special.
Yeah, so obviously, you know, the men's and women's teams, both losing Coach Diaz and Coach Wallace, and you and Jamie come in to continue this tradition, that this legendary program that we were just talking about. So you come here and NIL takes over. It's just bust the whole thing wide open. It's like the wild, wild west. How have you kind of taken the history and all the stuff from your playing days and then your coaching career before you got here, all those lessons learned, and like kind of take this on by the horns and work through it?
Everybody has their own views on it, and obviously I think that NIL can be a terrific thing. Yeah. Our approach is really, let's figure out if Georgia's where you want to be for your college years. Yeah. And then, when it comes down to why you choose a school, I would hope that a lot of it is dominated by really where you see yourself and where you see yourself developing as a player and as a person. And so that's really still kind of the basis of our recruiting. That's what we go with. We want ladies that want to be here at Georgia because of what Georgia is. Right. Not necessarily because Georgia is writing the biggest check. And I think it's been pretty consistent, and believe it or not, there are still players out there that want to go to college and have the best experience out there. And I think that's at University of Georgia when it comes to tennis.
Oh, 100%. It's hard to beat the city of Athens, so I want to talk about that a little bit. Obviously, you're from Winder, been surrounded by the Classic City community for your entire life, then through college and now as a coach. What does this city mean to, any athletic program at the University of Georgia, but specifically women's tennis?
Yeah, I mean, it surprises you every day. Yeah. I mean, Athens, I've been here, since my freshman year, it's coming up on 18 years now, and it brings new people. You may have a new, bakery come to 5 Points to replace 5 Points Deli, but Athens has that character, and the people here have the character too. And you look to your left, you look to your right, they're everywhere. This is certainly a community that supports one another beyond any given sporting event. Yeah. Obviously, football's huge in the fall, but I think that Athens is much more than just football.
Yeah, totally. So, I wanted to talk about this community, this tennis court. Obviously, it's one of the most electric environments in all of college tennis. The new indoor court is awesome, the addition of that. But what is the difference between having a home match and going on the road with this community and all that support?
I mean, we're talking about, 500, anywhere between 500 to 1,500 people at a tennis match. And there's only one place in the country where that's happening consistently, and it's right here in Athens. So obviously the volume of people here is second to none. But I think what makes it really special, if you look at those names on the indoor courts, you've got the Trey Carter family court, court 4. That would have been my court if I was playing back in the day, and there are no coincidences. And you've got Jim Childs, Al Parker courts, Kevin Sessions, Lumpkin Sando, Hill Griffin, like all of the people that pour into making UGA tennis what it is. I think a lot of times people think from the outside just because it's built, it's going to continue to stand and run on its own. But there's a lot of folks that are pouring in to continue to keep Georgia tennis at the top.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So you rattle off all those names, and obviously they're great contributors to this tennis program. But Alex also mentioned that you're kind of a stats savant. Like you love stats, you love records, rankings, all that stuff. And it's kind of translated to your coaching style and knowing, the ins and outs of tennis. Where does that love of just all the stats and rankings and records come from?
Yeah, it sounds a little crazy, but I enjoy studying it. Yeah. It's numbers, and you get a bit you might kind of have a little bit of a hunch that this might be related to that, and then when you get out here and you say that was the right matchup, or it's extremely validating. I don't know. It's one of the things, I guess, nerding out a little bit over tennis. If you ask me what I ate for lunch yesterday, I have no idea. If you ask me what a 12-year-old Alex Hill, what racket he played with, well, he played with the Encode, the 90. That was too small for him. He should have been playing with a bigger racket at the time. Maybe he'd be sitting in the chair now.
Oh, God, it's too good.
Yeah. But yeah, tennis stuff I can remember pretty well. Anything outside of that comes tough.
Yeah, I hear you. So I want to go back to the indoor championship this year. Obviously, the addition we talked about. What has that done? I mean, obviously, y'all are now the national indoor champions. So, that's obviously been a huge improvement and something that's been a great addition.
Yeah, I mean, we were practicing out in the cold, the 35-degree days, which actually, there's value to that too, and not having comfort all the time and getting pushed outside your comfort zone. But I don't know. Yeah, obviously Josh Brooks is a huge investor in tennis and built us this incredible facility. Certainly somewhere there's a feeling that no, like we have a job to do. They built the kingdom and we have a job to do to keep it at the top. But, as far as what it does on a daily basis, if we catch bad weather, we don't have to go practice until 7 o'clock. We can split it with the men, which was something we weren't able to do when we were on 4 courts. It's not just a match day type thing. It has implications for every day.
Yeah.
And has certainly made our life a lot easier and more comfortable.
Right. Yeah. So talk about this 2025 team. What are you most looking forward to? What's your biggest concerns? I know you maybe don't want to jump into too much detail, but y'all are the indoor national champions.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all got a huge season.
We've got a lot of experience on this team. We have a senior class of 4 that have just seen and been a big part of helping this program rise in the rankings year after year. So we do have experience on our side in a lot of ways, and one of the big things that we'd like to see is just the experience of how college tennis works and how to handle the pressure be passed down to the younger groups. For a lot of tennis players coming into college, this is different than anything they've done before. They've been out on their own. They've played tournaments on their own. When they lose, they go home. Now we're asking players to play a match. You may lose your match, but the team wins, and you need to be ready to play the next day. You have about 12 hours to get over that loss and be ready to go again, which is something different from the juniors where they may have a week or 3 weeks to process it all and then come out fresh again. We're asking you to press the refresh button pretty quickly. But again, I think that's one of those things where hopefully in-house we're able to learn those lessons a little bit quicker with the younger ones and the newer ones and keep the ship rolling.
Yeah. So, obviously there's countless stories from your players now, your playing experience. I want to ask you about your favorite Manny Diaz story from your playing days or once you got here as a coach and he's with the men and you're over here with the men.
Yeah. Man, I got a lot of Manny stories. I don't know if it's a specific story, but I just remember there was one time, so Manny was always the coolest, most chill coach if you're playing for a championship. If you're playing on the last day of a tournament, he's not going to say anything. It's, you guys go out and play. We're here. But when you're playing like the round of 32 or you're playing a SEC team that's ranked 40 in the country, before the match, Manny would have the ladders out, he would have jump ropes out, or that Monday of practice, there was always some kind of new thing that we were doing for about 3 days until we got through the match, maybe 7-0.
Yeah.
And then we got to play a big one the next week. When we would play the big ones, it was very tame, but it was always funny seeing what he would pull out when we were getting ready for our match against the 10th place team in the SEC.
Yeah, that is too good.
Yeah.
So you obviously played men's tennis. You come over when you get to Georgia and work under Coach Wallace on the women's side. What did you learn from him and that you still carry today?
Yeah, I think that obviously a lot, but one thing that always stands out to me was that Jeff was, while there's this job and there's immense pressures of the job and you want to win and you want to do it for Georgia, he was always a family man first.
Yeah.
And, I've known Jared, his son, and Brittany for that matter, since I was 11 years old.
Yeah.
And, just seeing the kind of father that Jeff was with his kids and maintaining, the work that it takes to maintain that relationship with Sabina, his wife, when we're out on the road a lot. Family always was going to come first. There was no doubt about that. And so it was, I think that was nice to see when you start looking at all the different directions that the job pulls you, to kind of have a guiding star there. Hey, family's going to come first is a big deal.
Yeah, that is awesome. So I always do a speed round, just some quick hitting softball questions. Everybody's dying to know about Drake Bernstein. Okay, so first, your favorite food?
Pizza.
Okay, favorite movie?
I don't really watch movies, but I guess Sandlot.
Oh, great one. You got to go sports. I like it. All right, so if you could play a doubles match with any tennis player ever, who would it be?
Federer. obviously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. If you could go to any single tennis tournament, majors, Grand Slams, whatever, what would it be?
NCAAs in Athens.
There you go. I love it. Yeah. There's your recruiting pitch. I got it.
That ain't recruiting. That's a fact.
That
That's
is a fact.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So you get here after Coach Wallace, and you have immediate success. Obviously, the players that you've brought in, the recruiting efforts that you've done have been huge efforts leading toward that. But what is kind of the culture that you've built in your few years that you've been here as head coach?
I don't think that we're not really reinventing a wheel. I mean, Georgia is a place that should be good at tennis, right? If you look out here, this should be good. I think the big thing that we've really doubled down on is the way that we're going to compete, the way that we're going to go about our business professionally, the way that we're going to go about our practice. I have to mention the assistants that I have. Will Reynolds played on the team here with me for 2 years, and known him since I was 12. He's just a very level resource for the girls. And then you have Jared Chaplin, who played actually at Tennessee. We were big rivals back in the day, and now what he brings, he was National Assistant Coach of the Year last year, what he brings every day to this group, two guys that make a huge difference, not just one person.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's crazy to me about tennis, and I feel like there's a few other sports that have this aspect to it, but not really like the big ones you think of, like football and all that stuff. But like, you know these guys since you were 11 years old, playing in junior tournaments, and it's not just the kids from Georgia. Like, you meet kids from California and Washington and wherever. What does that change about tennis once you get to the college level? Because you played them for so long.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that college is really, whether you were the best player in the country or one of the top juniors in the world, or whether you were under the radar, I do think that college is kind of a fresh slate.
Yeah.
And it's where you start to see some results of, hey, these players took their time in college seriously, so look what happened. And these ones didn't take it so seriously, look what happened. It's, I think it's a reset once you get to college. But, it is fun getting to go to tournaments and, or even if we're out recruiting and, seeing these guys that I haven't got to see for a year or so. But I used to see them every weekend on the road. It's nice to see everybody for sure.
Yeah, that is awesome. We obviously sat together at the Georgia Tech men's match a few weeks ago, and seeing those guys, it is 110, 20 miles per hour serves and stuff like that, and you played in that. What is the difference between men's to women's tennis, maybe physically, mentally, what are
yeah
those?
I mean, I think that kind of let's be clear, I didn't play at the speed that they're playing today. I wouldn't have been able to keep up with that, but I think the big thing is a lot of men's tennis is really based around the serve and holding serve, breaking serve. On the women's side, serve's not quite as dominant, and so there's a lot more room for stuff to happen in between the years. On the guy's side, a guy's serving forehand are too big, he's going to be hard to keep up with if there's a level gap. On the women's side, it's really more of a fight for every point because there's not as much breakaway on the serve, and so it leads to a lot of time between the ears mattering. And so as a player, I wasn't the best ball striker. I didn't hit that great, but I liked finding a way to win. So I feel like being on the women's side, that kind of suits my skill set pretty well. We try to figure out ways to win, even if maybe on paper we're not supposed to win a certain match. It's fun to sort through that, and you have a little bit more of a window on that, I think, on the women's side.
Yeah, totally. So it's funny you say that about your playing style. Alex texted me and he said when the chips are down, Drake is the hardest working player, and it's obviously translated to your coaching style, to the recruiting trail, all the work that you do there. Where was that born? Is it just the competitive spirit that was?
No, I mean, look, my parents were in sports. They were PE teachers. My dad's a basketball coach. It's kind of, hey, if you play sports, this is what it's supposed to look like. You're
right.
supposed to be able to get out there and compete. But really, if I had to think of one driving factor, it's this place and this setting, and it's Athens, and it's University of Georgia, and it's the people who make you feel like you have the wind at your back all the time, that you want to win for them. I mean, it's never really been a selfish endeavor. It's like, man, Manny was my coach. I want to win for Manny and Will Glenn. Like, these are, they give everything they've got to me. I owe it to them to give everything that I've got. And so I think that's really the big one. It's, we work long hours, we travel a lot, we recruit hard, but it's a labor of love. We get to do this for University of Georgia. I mean, I could think of a lot worse ways to be working hard. You know?
So one of the things that I've seen through Mr. Trey Carter, Alan Miller, just some tennis guys that I've been surrounded by, is the absolute hatred for Georgia Tech that Coach McGill, Coach Diaz ingrained in you. Is it the same for you?
Yeah. Don't like them. I don't like them. But we know there's one match that rolls around a year that Georgia needs to be ready to take care of business of, and over the years we've had success in that rivalry. And I think, one thing that may be a little bit different is Trey and Alan, two folks that are very outspoken about this. We don't like to treat we like to treat all matches the same, right. And so we don't maybe have the same locker room talk that those fellas had back in their day, but we may have the same feeling in the heart.
I hear you. I hear you. So the SEC is, I know Tech isn't an SEC school, but still a huge rival. But the SEC tennis across the board is always good. It's just like the SEC and any other sport. It's the greatest conference there is. What is it going to be like this year, the competitive nature of the league? It's
brutal. I mean, we have 7 of the top 10 schools in the SEC. And so if you think that you're getting a day off, that's when you lose. If you show up to the facility thinking it's going to be easy, that's when you lose. If you win a doubles point thinking it's going to get easier after that, that's when you lose. So really, I think it's a great thing because it requires your attention all the way through. And that's what we saw last year. Last year, our conference wasn't ranked as high because we get to this computer system. We knew how tough the SEC was last year, and then you have 3 of the Final 4 teams in the NCAAs from the SEC. So we know what it requires day in and day out, but it just requires you to be attentive. Like, for example, we've got our first SEC match on Sunday against South Carolina. It's Monday. We need to have a good practice today. We need to go be productive, and I think that's what makes us better at the end of the year for it.
Yeah, totally. Well, I know you have a busy day. You got to go to practice and stuff, so I'll wrap this up. I always close out with your kind of predictions, hopes for the 2025 season. What you're looking forward to find in this team. I know we talked about this 2025 squad a little bit.
I'm going to go about as boring and as coach speak as I possibly can, and that's that I'm hoping for a good Monday practice.
There you go.
That's about all I got.
What's right in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. It's always been do the duty that lies near us, and one step at a time, and keep working in the right direction. And that's, I think, where this team is headed. We're headed in the right direction, and hopefully we can stay on track.
Awesome. I love it. Well, I appreciate you doing this so much, taking time out of your busy day, because I know y'all got a whole slate of stuff to do on the tennis courts. But
appreciate it, Hammy. Go Dogs.
Of course, go Dogs. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Hammy Show. This is Drake Bernstein. What an episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next time on the Hammy Show, presented by Bulldog.